What's going on, guys? BriarRabbit here. Today, Bungie released Hotfix 5 for Destiny. And if you have been a loot farmer, if you've spent a lot of time in front of a cave on Earth, firing into it, waiting for legendary drops, the fun is over. They finally put an end to this exploit, and you know, depending on how you feel about the loot system in Destiny, this could be good or bad news. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the patch that was released today. But Bungie actually went ahead and released some Destiny dev notes and explained a little bit about what they were thinking when they made this patch, as well as what they're thinking while they're forming the patches in the future. So I'll be going over those as well. So let's start with the patches for today. The first one has to deal with missions. They reduced the drop rate of engrams following a hard wipe. So that was an exploit people were taking advantage of, and they got rid of it. The Queen's Wrath event. Now, I was surprised by this one. I actually thought this was intentional, but material rewards for dismantling Queen's Wrath gear will no longer provide Ascendant materials, but missions will continue to drop legendary items. So basically what was happening is if you completed a Queen's Wrath mission, you would get legendary gear. And if you dismantled that gear, you would get a lot of Ascendant materials to upgrade your other armor, which was a great thing. I actually thought that they meant to do it to make it a little bit easier to start upgrading some of your armor. Apparently they didn't mean to do this, and it's a bit of a bummer to see it go because Ascendant material is one of the hardest things to find in Destiny. The next one is, and I'm going to read this one verbatim, the Hive of the Holy Treasure Cave have realized the futility of their endless assault on Skywatch and have retired to lick their wounds and plan their attack. So what they're talking about here is the treasure cave that everybody's been standing in front of and firing into. They've patched this out, so it's not going to work anymore, which, you know, depending on how you feel about Destiny's loot system, this could be either good or bad. I feel like Destiny kind of rewards players a little bit on the slow side, so I'm not gonna lie, I definitely stood in front of the treasure cave trying to pick up some legendary gear, and I'm a little sorry to see it go. I kind of expected it to go. Not Too Nerdy definitely warned me a couple of times that it wasn't gonna last long. They were definitely gonna patch this out, and they have. So they also fixed a couple of other exploits. They fixed the respawn times for monster caves in Skywatch, Forgotten Shore, the Ember Caves, the Shattered Coast, and the Barrens. So they've all had their respawn timers reset to 40 seconds, so it should be a lot slower for those monsters to start running out. So in the past, like in the Treasure Cave, the monsters would run out every 6 seconds, and now it's going to be 40 seconds. And in the Barrens, it was 20 seconds, and now they're going to run out every 40 seconds. So they're all been, the length of time for the respawn has been lengthened to make it a little harder to just stand there and, you know, farm for legendary. So it's a little bit of a bummer if you were looking to level up fast, but it's probably more toward how the game was intended to be played by the developers. As I mentioned before, Bungie actually released some developer notes for Destiny, and there's some pretty interesting stuff here. So they talk a little bit about the Cryptarch and how players get disappointed when they bring legendary engrams to the Cryptarch and then get rare or normal gear in return. So they actually said they might change this. I don't know how they would change this. They don't go into great detail. Perhaps by changing the color of the engrams so they don't necessarily reflect what you should expect from what's inside, because it definitely seems to be a little bit random when you're actually cashing in those engrams. They also talk about the cave. They said that they really thought it was cool how players really organized around that cave. So they saw that people were basically forming impromptu teams and everybody knew exactly where to stand and people would kind of police each other, and they thought that was impressive. However, they did patch it anyway just because they wanted to, you know, make the game a little bit longer. They wanted to actually keep the loot experience the way they had intended. They also talked about a reward celebration. So they said that the way the looting works now, when you get some cool piece of gear, there's nothing to really celebrate it in the game. So they're thinking about patching something in. They also talked about voice communication and how they're going to add local voice communication. So what that means is in certain game modes like Strike, you'll actually be able to communicate with people who aren't necessarily in your Strike team, which I think would be a great addition. Next, they talk about balance. They start off by talking about balance in Strikes, where they've actually made them a little bit easier so that people have basically an easier time of getting through them. They're not so frustrating, but they are going to keep the raid as difficult as it is now, because that's how it's intended to be. It's intended to be the most challenging thing you can do in Destiny. They talk about exotic weapons a little bit, and they say, well, you know, these were intended to be not perfect weapons, but really good weapons with their own kind of quirks. And what we've seen are that some of the quirks are too bad for them. So don't get rid of them now if you don't like it. Don't cash it in now. Wait, because we might be balancing the one that you have. And they actually reference two of them specifically. The exotic bounties by Thorn and Bad Juju. So if you have either of those weapons, you might want to hold on to them and see if they get updated. They talk about auto rifles a little bit, saying that they're a bit too powerful at range, so they're going to reduce the range for them. I think that's a good idea, especially in the Crucible. Scout rifles, they're going to add more power to. I think that's a very good idea. Scout rifles should be a dominant killer for skilled users in the Crucible. I find that they're a little bit underpowered. So adding a little bit of power and range to them should make them very good. You know, they're still not going to be good close range, but they should be very good long range, especially if they nerf the long range damage of the auto rifle. I would like to see the auto rifle kill as quickly as it does now at close and medium range, though. If they nerf that, I'll be upset about it, to be honest with you. Shotguns have been a point of contention among Crucible players, and they are looking at patching those. Basically saying that we're going to take some of the range off of them, which I think is a good idea. A lot of people, what they do is they find a shotgun that can be upgraded to give it better range. They maximize that, and then they have a one-shot kill at a very long distance with the shotgun. And that can be a very, very powerful weapon, even almost equaling the fusion rifles range. So that basically adds a redundancy. So as long as they nerf the range on the shotgun but not the damage, they should still have a very viable gun there. So all in all, I think it is a good sign that Bungie is really paying close attention to this game. I'm a little bit disappointed that they're getting rid of the Queen's Wrath Ascendant materials. I thought that was a great way to earn Ascendant materials. They're very hard to earn otherwise. I'm really glad that they're really looking at the Crucible and the balancing of weapons. I think that the multiplayer in this game is much more fun than I had anticipated. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think of the patch notes. I'll also link them down in the description of this video if you want to read them at your own pace. I think they're pretty interesting, especially the developer notes. So hit that like button if you like this video, hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.